Additional aids and services are available to individuals with disabilities. To make such a request, please contact us by email by clicking the Help tab in the PD portal or at pdportal@tamu.edu, by phone including Relay Texas at 1-800-441-7323, or in writing to Train PD, PD Portal Support, 4477 TAMU, College Station, Texas 77843. Both a transcript and accessible document of the content presented in this webinar can be found as resources in the course description. Click on the blue links under Course Resources in the description. When a link is clicked, a new browser window will open.
Welcome, everybody. This is Wonderopolis, a wonder-filled discovery learning opportunity for your classroom. Our presenter today is Dr. Katie Welch, and she's going to introduce herself a little bit more during her presentation, but a warm welcome. And I'm joined today by Megan Webb, and I'm Anne Marie Molinari Sanders from TCAL, the Texas Center for the Advancement of Literacy and Learning. So once again, welcome. Thank you so much, Katie, for being here.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be talking with you guys today about Wonderopolis, and thanks for being here. It's been kind of a wild time in Texas, and just your presence here today tells me that you are committed to making sure your students have the very best, and I just appreciate your commitment to them. So today's Tech and Tell is going to be about Wonderopolis, a wonder-filled discovery learning opportunity for your classroom. So we're going to be doing two types of things today. One is we're going to be figuring out what is Wonderopolis. We'll start with a roadmap of the website, and specifically, we're going to deep dive into the wonder of the day, which is kind of the hallmark, the flagship thing of the Wonderopolis website. But then I want to talk about why. So the roadmap is really the what is Wonderopolis? But then why? Why does this exist? Is really so that you can use discovery learning with your students. And so we will define discovery learning, and then we'll look at 3 ways that you can use Wonderopolis for discovery learning in your classroom. And we will specifically be looking at ideas around the wonder of the day, the wonder jar, and the wonder ground. That's what we're hoping to cover today. And our objectives are, first of all, I can define discovery learning. So hopefully before we're done with our session today, you can say, yes, I can define discovery learning. And also, I can analyze ways to use Wonderopolis to promote discovery learning in my classroom or in classrooms that I support. Just briefly about myself, my name is Katie Welch. I am an educational consultant. My background is in linguistics. I have a PhD in linguistics, so I love language. I love working with English learners. I work at UT Arlington as a university instructor and actually currently work in their ELI, their English Language Institute, working with English learners. And I also train ESL teachers all over Texas and nationally and even internationally at times, which is fun. But on a personal side, I am a volunteer ESL teacher in my community. I'm involved with faith-based programs in the Texas community, and I also weekly volunteer in a GED class as an ELA teacher, faith-based program. I'm in the classroom trying to figure all of this out, trying to figure out how to get my students engaged and involved in learning language and doing discovery learning. The reason why I was so excited to do this topic is because I myself have done a lot of implementing of discovery learning in my own classrooms, and I wanted to share some ideas about how to do that in yours. Wonderopolis is neat because you can use it in not just ESL classrooms, you could use it in adult ABE classrooms as well. Okay, so speaking of, let's talk about Wonderopolis. This is their logo, and you see their tagline is "Where the wonders of learning never cease." And, sometimes we get so bogged down in the nitty-gritty of lesson planning and curriculum and things that we forget that learning is wonderful. There's so much joy in acquiring knowledge, and to just sit around and think, I wonder about that, or how does that work? And so Wonderopolis is trying to get us excited about wondering again, the wonderful world of learning. And so to get us excited, I want to start with a Mentimeter question. If you were to just explore a topic, if you wanted to learn more, what might you choose to learn? And I've given us 4 options here. And so you should be seeing a screen that has 4 different options. And it says, which of these topics would you want to explore further? If you were just embracing the joy of learning, I just want to know more. Would you want to know one of these 4 options? But the 4 options we're going to choose are, would you rather learn about how do you stretch a limo? I don't know. I don't know that I've ever ridden in a stretch limo in my life, so maybe I'd want to know about that. Would you want to know, why do dogs chase their tails? Maybe if you're a dog person, maybe we have some dog people and you wonder, why does my dog do that? Option 3 is, how do elevators work? Sometimes I question that when I'm in an elevator and it makes kind of a funny noise. I wonder, is this working correctly? How do these things work? You wonder, what makes glitter sparkle? Never thought about that before. I know glitter makes a big mess, but I've never thought about, why is glitter sparkly? Is it something in the chemical properties? I don't know. And so far, it looks like several of us are interested in knowing why dogs chase their tails. Are they bored? Is it just to get out energy? I don't know. And one of us is interested in what makes glitter sparkle. Interesting question. So I want to tell you about Wonderopolis. Wonderopolis is a free website that is made available through the National Centers for Families Learning, which sometimes is called NCFL. What you'll notice when you go to the website in a minute is that it has kind of a kid-friendly or kid-oriented feel to it. And that's very intentional because it is designed for families to use together. But that doesn't mean that we as adult educators can't use it in our classrooms. And in fact, when we do use it in our classrooms, we are able to meet the family standards, which is a required component for us ESL teachers, but also we're modeling for our students how they can then go use this resource with their families. Don't be put off by the fact that it looks kind of kid-oriented. That's on purpose, but that doesn't mean that we can't use it in our classrooms. Wonderopolis has over 2,500 wonders of the day. Just like you saw there, we were looking at some of the over 2,000 wonders that are available. Why does glitter sparkle? Why do dogs chase their tails? And so this is the main purpose of the website, is to create a platform for people to wonder about things and then to be able to find out the answers to their wonderings. We will see that the different articles that are written about these wonderings have vocabulary support, they have comprehension questions, and also immersive reader capabilities, which is something I want to share with you because it opens up the possibilities, especially for our English learners. We're going to go into more detail about all of that in just a second. But before we do, I just want to invite you to go to wonderopolis.org with me. So depending on how you're joining today, if you're maybe joining from your laptop, you could either open up another window or another tab and follow along, or Wonderopolis, it's not an app, but it is a website that you can access through your web browser on your phone. And so you can also just pull up your web browser and type in wonderopolis.org, and you will pull up the exact same site that I will be demonstrating here today. It'll look a little bit different on your phone, but it's pretty much exactly the same. Everything's there. Okay, so now here I am on the Wonderopolis page. And so I'd like to do first just a big picture overview to go through and say, what are the different components that are available? And then we're going to really get very specific into those wonders of the day. Right now I'm on the Home tab, which is the one on the far left, and it's kind of a lighter orange color with the Home icon. I am not going to go through the Home tab with you because even though there's some good information in the Home tab and it's kind of interesting things about Wonderopolis, it's not where you're going to find the most useful things as a teacher. If I'm trying to get a lesson together for tomorrow, this is not where I'm going to go as the Home tab. So we're going to intentionally not spend much time there, but instead we're going to go to that darker orange color, which is next door on the right. And we're going to click on Explore Wonders. Now, as you go into Explore Wonders and you scroll down, you're going to see that you can explore the world of wonders. This is where those 2,500 wonders of the day are housed. And so you can see here, if I just scroll down, here I am at wonder 2,969. So they're getting really close to 3,000 wonders in here, which is a question, how do we wonder? And actually, I'm going to talk to you about that in just a minute. Here's 2,968. Who was Lou Castro? What is a multiple? Does music help you with math? What type of shark is the slowest? You can see there's just a variety of topics here that you can scroll through, and you can load more results to find all 3,000. You can also find as you scroll down that they are categorized by subject area. If you want to find all the science ones, or all of the ones related to math, or all of the ones related to social studies, language arts, technology. Oh, so if you're doing digital literacy, maybe this would be a great place to look. Arts and culture, etc. You can also, as I scroll back up, just to the top of this Explore Wonders tab, I can go in and I can see the most recent, which is how it was organized right there, but I can also click on most popular to see what do people who use this website really like to learn. And I thought it was so fascinating that the top one was, how do you play a guitarrón? I think my first question was, what's a guitarrón? And then how do you play it? This one, should you use hydrogen peroxide to clean cuts and scrapes? Interesting. That's a very popular wonder that people have. And then we have the third one, which is the wonder list. And it's just a more text-based version of seeing the different wonders as opposed to in the format that had the different pictures. Just find it easier. So that's the orange tab, Explore Wonders. And we are going to come back there in just a second. But first, I want to just show you what the rest of these colored tabs are at the top. So Explore Wonders is kind of the main place that you're going to be hanging out if you're using Wonderopolis, that dark orange. But next door to that, the blue, is What Are You Wondering? And this is where students can go and add their own questions. Every question that's here came from either adult students or children's students or families who had a question together. I know my family all the time, we're talking about something, and I wonder how that works. So all of these have been generated from the users of the website, and they will ask their question, and then there'll be nominated wonders where people say, oh, I wonder that too. And then ultimately they make the wonder of the day out of these. So you can see one of the most top nominated wonder questions is, how does touchscreen work? And you notice even right there, the does was spelled wrong, which is so awesome because we know that's probably coming from someone, maybe a child who's still learning to spell. That tells us it's an authentic wondering from someone out in the world. If we keep scrolling down, we can also see they have had 280,753 questions asked, but only 3,000 wonders so far. So they don't necessarily get to answer every wonder, but you could see some of the wonders recently that have been asked. Why do we eat meat? How is electricity created? Why does space not have oxygen? So you can go and you can ask your questions here. And many of them do ultimately become wonders of the day. So that's what you find in that blue tab, is the What Are You Wondering? And then the last two I just want to briefly show you are the purple, which is collections. And you'll notice when you click on collections that it opens a new tab. A new tab is opened there. Collections is going to be around specific topics. And so if you're interested in Earth Day, for example, or career exploration, you can click on those links and it will lead you to a collection of wonders related to that topic. And then lastly, Wonders with Charlie is this red tab over here on the end. And it is going to be Wonders of the Day in video format. So the Wonders of the Day that we saw, that we scrolled down through in the dark orange tab, those were written, but these are going to be visual. And so especially if you're working with English learners, and maybe it would be better to start with something oral and visual first, this is a great place to look for Wonders of the Day. So that's the big picture overview. But where I really want to spend our time is here in the dark orange tab. So if you'll go back there with me to the dark orange tab, and it's where we've got all of our Wonders of the Day. Earlier, when we voted, we got the most votes for why do dogs chase their tails? And so I'm actually going to scroll up and I'm going to see if I can find that one in the search bar. So why do dogs chase their tails? 3 of us said we were interested in learning that. And so I'm going to go there. Why do dogs chase their tails? And here it is, right next to why do dogs drool? And I'm going to click on that. And notice that's number 539. So that one was done a little bit earlier. And when I scroll down, I now have the Wonder of the Day itself. This is what it looks like. And I'm going to notice that I've got, have you ever wondered? And that kind of an overview of what the Wonder of the Day is going to be. And then I'm going to have an article, and it's going to start here with the large P. Perhaps second only to why did chicken cross the road is the question of why dogs chase their tails. And as I scroll down, I'm going to see that there's a pretty lengthy article that is explaining why do dogs chase their tails. What supports are available to help students understand the article? So we have an article here about why dogs chase their tails, but there's a lot of supports in place that allow students to be able to read this article or to help them understand it. I want you to spend 45 seconds looking through why do dogs chase their tails and see if you can find and name at least 1, maybe 2 supports that are there so that students can access this article, they can understand it. You're not actually reading the article, but you're just looking through that page and seeing, what do you notice? What do you discover as you are looking through that you would say, you know what, that would help students to be able to understand this. As you looked through, what did you find? What did you discover as you were looking through how they put together these articles on Wonderopolis? What do you notice? Did you notice, for example, the fact that you have all of these keywords in yellow, and when you hover over them, you can find the definition of the word? So attached, wagging, boredom. They explain unfamiliar words. So over here, we have wonder words. So not only is the definition given kind of in line in the text, but we also have wonder words, which are the kind of the key vocabulary that you need to know to understand this article. And of course, when you're working with English learners, it's always great to front load the vocabulary, that is to pre-teach it first, so that way the students are familiar with the words that they're about to see. So when they read the article, it's not so confusing. And you can actually take the Wonder Word Challenge right here, which is where you drag a word to its definition. And so it's kind of a quick vocab check before you read the article. So yes, there's vocabulary support. What else do we see?
Is there a difference between the highlighted words in the article, attached, wagging, boredom, versus the wonder words over here, the 18?
Same words. They're the exact same words.
Okay.
Wonder words are the yellow words, and then over here is kind of the opportunity to test yourself to see if you know what they mean.
Great opportunity for students to work in groups looking for support.
They also have a comprehension check over here. So after you read the article, you can test your knowledge to see if you understood it or not. So the kind of a reading comprehension piece is here. And you can actually print those as well. So we've got some reading comprehension, some vocabulary support, and then actually something else that's really interesting at the bottom is just kind of action items that you can take after you've read the article. Is here's some ways that you could continue your learning, continue discovering about this topic. And so it will give you some different ideas. Sometimes it's a project, sometimes it's like a field trip to a dog park to watch dogs as they interact with each other or something like that. And then down at the bottom, there's the join the discussion, which is actually where you can comment on what you read. And what I think is so amazing about this website is the Wonderopolis team answers every comment. They respond to every comment that they get. So you will see they are constantly in there. So just kind of some neat features. So that's the basic gist of a wonder of the day. There's usually visual support. So especially for our English learners that may need some sort of real world examples of what are we talking about here, these visuals can help with comprehension. So we've got some visuals of some dogs. We've got a YouTube video about why do dogs chase their tails, and some more cute doggies. So there's some other supports here. So instead of you as the teacher having to go curate some pictures of dogs or a YouTube video that relates to this, your resources are already right there at the top. That is a wonder of the day. And the last thing I want you to see here is the opportunity for immersive reader. So those were kind of some of the surface features that we could see by exploring. But when you go here to listen, so when you click right here at the top underneath the title of the wonder of the day, every wonder of the day is going to have this option to listen in immersive reader. And when we open that up, it's going to look something like this. Now I'm going to switch back to my PowerPoint real quick just to tell you generally what is immersive reader, and then I'm going to show you. So I'm going to tell and then I'm going to show. But immersive reader is this wonderful feature that improves accessibility for all sorts of students. It has text to voice options. As you were looking through that article, if you were thinking, I don't know that my learners that I work with would be able, even with all that vocabulary support, they may not be able to read that on their own. Immersive Reader has a text to voice option where it will read it to you as you look along. In addition to that, not only will it read it to you in English, but you can actually translate the article into over 40 languages. So if you know that maybe you have a learner who needs to read it in their native language first before reading it in English, then that opportunity is available. There's a picture dictionary. So maybe reading those definitions isn't enough for some students, especially those who are beginning English learners. There is not only just a definition of a word, but there's actually a picture associated with each word. You can customize the reading speed. So if it's too fast and your students need slower processing time, they need the opportunity to kind of listen and process, then that's possible. It will also highlight each word as it's read, so that the student, as they're listening to it being read, can know exactly what word is being said. So that sound symbol correspondence is happening there, where they're hearing it and they're seeing it light up on the screen exactly where in the paragraph they are. And then there's also the opportunity for line focus, which is where it kind of narrows down so they know exactly which line is being read. So those are the cool features. Now I just want to show them to you real quick. So I'm going to pop back over into our dog article. So just as a reminder, I was here on the green. I click listen. And when I click listen, now it looks like this. And I can go ahead and click play.
Why do dogs chase their tails? Have you ever wondered? Why do dogs chase their tails?
So you can see as the reader is reading it, it's highlighting those different words. Now, for some students, that's way too fast. And so you can go down here into the speaker settings, the voice settings, and you can slow that down for your readers. And so maybe this will be a little bit easier for them to follow.
Tails. Is it normal for puppies to chase their tails?
Such a great, important feature for our learners. Over here, when I click on the book, this is where I'm going to be able to find some of those neat things I was telling you about. Line focus is here, where it just focuses on one line. Picture dictionary is here. I actually already have it turned on. And so when I go click on tails, there's the picture of the tail. So great for English learners. This is not just something unique to Wonderopolis. This is something that's available in lots of different platforms. But the fact that you can take this great tool of Wonderopolis and then overlay it with Immersive Reader opens the possibilities for which learners can use it. Road, here's a picture of a road. Dogs, picture of dogs, etc. So that's the picture dictionary. And then here's where you can translate languages. So I can choose a language. Being in Texas, we know that we're probably going to have some Spanish speakers among us. And so I'm going to choose, I'll choose Mexican Spanish, but notice there's Latin American and Spain. But Mexican Spanish, click document. And then you can see, es normal que los cachorros se persiguen la cola. And so I can see the English and I can see the Spanish. And I can get my picture dictionary with the Spanish as well. This makes these articles of the day, these wonders of the day, even more accessible to a wider range of learners. So I encourage you, if you look at this and think, is this right for my learners? Consider that listen button that's small, but it is mighty. So it's free, 100% free, and all students can get into it. And all they have to do is go to the website. So they can use it in your classroom. They can use it at home. It is something that's available to the public and totally free. So discovery learning is a type of inquiry-based learning. Using a big word, it's a constructivist approach, which means that learners co-construct knowledge together as they are learning. So it is more of a process where students are driving the learning. And so you see in the little cycle here, students formulate questions about a subject. They collect information from a variety of sources. They start thinking about it and having new ideas. They share with each other these new ideas. They think back about their original question again, and then maybe they have a new question that they want to start asking. But student curiosity and student questions are what drive the learning in a discovery learning classroom. So we want to encourage students to ask questions. And in a discovery learning classroom, we don't always know exactly what's going to happen because we're letting students generate ideas and generate questions. Today, at the beginning of our webinar, I asked you, which of these 4 topics would you want to explore? And we could have gone 4 different directions. We could have looked at glitter. We could have looked at elevators. We ended up looking at why do dogs chase their tail? But that was me wanting to use your own curiosity to drive our webinar for today. I didn't know what would happen, but I wanted your curiosity to be in control of where we went. And that's what discovery learning is. Students are given the opportunity to ask questions and discover. They're not given the answer by the teacher, but they're given the tools to get to that answer. And sometimes when you hear about discovery learning, you think, well, that means the teacher's just not doing anything. No. All of the research about discovery learning says that the teacher has to guide the learner throughout the process. Otherwise, it doesn't work. But the student is getting the opportunity to use their own curiosity to explore things that are interesting to them as the teacher comes alongside them and guides the process. So there's 3 ways that we can use Wonderopolis for discovery learning. The first one is, how might you use the wonder of the day in your classroom for discovery learning? Well, just to kind of back up for a second, the wonder of the day itself, like the whole purpose of it, is to start with student questions. You remember that I mentioned that it starts with a student posting their own wonderings on Wonderopolis. And there was like something close to 300,000 questions that have been asked on Wonderopolis. And then those questions are then reviewed or nominated for potentially being the next wonder of the day. And then the team investigates the wonder, they've gathered the resources, and then the wonder is published. But it always starts with the students' questions. That's a discovery learning hallmark. That's a principal idea of discovery learning, is it starts with student questions. So what would this look like in your classroom? Well, first thing is you want students to just get used to, what is this? What is a wonder? What is a wonder of the day? And so some teachers will display the wonder of the day on the board just as a warm-up at the beginning of class. So just something to spur conversation at the beginning. We'll just post a wonder of the day. This gets students used to the format of these articles, the idea that there's a question that someone has asked, there is an article explaining the answer, and there's different tools available to help them understand it. But once they know kind of how wonders of the day work, then they might be ready to head over to that blue tab, which is where you submit your own wonder. And so students can start generating their own questions instead of just reading other people's wonders. They can start saying, well, what do I wonder about? What questions do I have? At that point, you as a class can choose wonder topics that are of interest to explore together. Now, you might start with choosing topics like I did today, a choice of 4 instead of a choice of 3,000 or a choice of anything in the world. That's the idea that it's teacher guided. But still, as a class, you could choose wonder topics that are of interest, and then you could go through the process of exploring that topic, having class discussions about it, etc. Also, if you're thinking, well, I don't know how this ties into my existing curriculum, you can look and see, are you currently in a unit that has a theme that you might be related to one of the collections or one of the topics that we saw where it was like science or math or something like that? Is there a way that you can tie this into your existing curriculum? Another way, if you decide, okay, I kind of want to introduce my students to Wonderopolis, I want to show them a wonder of the day, I want to get them wondering themselves, how do I structure that? What does that look like? Well, one great way is to use a KWL chart in tandem with a wonder of the day. So I'm curious, some of you longtime educators, you probably know there's 3 columns in a KWL chart. Do you know what they are? Do you know what the K stands for and the W and the L? Anybody know? It stands for what I know, and that K is kind of deceiving because the K is silent and no. What I wonder and what I learned. And so as you go through a wonder of the day, before you ever even start, you could have done, what do we know about dogs? What do we know about the behavior of dogs? What do we know about what dogs do? And we could have filled in the K, everything we know about dogs. And then in the W, what I wonder, we could have said, okay, what are some things that we wonder about dogs? I wonder why every time my doorbell rings, my dog loses its mind and barks. You can list your wonderings there. And then after the W, so you do the, what do I already know? What do I wonder about this topic? And then here, in between the W and the L, that's when you go read the article. That's when you go find out all of this information, or you go do your research. And then in the L is after the fact, what did I learn? And so a KWL chart is a great way to structure discovery learning because you're using what they already know combined with what their curiosities are, what they're interested in, what they're wondering, and then you go research it and find out what they learned. If you're interested in using a KWL chart, you can find one at readwritethink.org, which is this QR code right here. Or Canva has some templates available as well, and I'm going to show those to you in just a second. So you can get your free KWL chart at readwritethink.org or at Canva. After you do that, after you've kind of gotten your students used to this process of wondering and then researching and then documenting what they learned, of asking questions, the next step is you can create a wonder jar. The wonder jar is a resource at the very bottom of the page. Any page that you're on will get you to this on the Wonderopolis website. And it's at the very bottom right, and it says Wonder Jar. And when you click on that, you're going to see a PDF opens up. Well, there's a link to a PDF that looks like this. It's the instructions for creating your very own Wonder Jar. I'm going to create a Wonder Jar for my classroom. As I do that, I'm going to have little strips of paper that Wonderopolis has provided for me, and my students can write their wonderings on a slip of paper. Now, these can be wonderings about anything. This doesn't have to be something that they can find the answer to on Wonderopolis. This can be anything that I'm wondering about. Maybe our students are wondering about why is the sky blue or what's the meaning of life, but they may be very practical wonderings like, how do I get a driver's license in the state of Texas? Or how do you rent an apartment? And the students will put their wonders into the wonder jar. And then the teacher can look through and see what are the students wondering and maybe choose one that the class can then explore together. And so you can use that as a springboard, either for oral class discussion or for some sort of writing assignment or research project. But the reason it's discovery learning is it's coming from your students' own questions. Their curiosities are driving what they end up learning. If you decide to do the Wonder discussion, so let's say somebody wants to know how to get a driver's license in Texas, and you say, okay, let's, as a class, research that, figure it out, and then we'll do a writing assignment about it. Canva, the website, has partnered with Wonderopolis to create all these great templates that students can use to present their research findings. Here's Canva, and these are all the Wonderopolis templates that Canva has created for if you were to have your students use Wonderopolis or use the Wonder Jar, and then they're going to report out what they have learned about whatever topic they were interested in. You can even find that KWL chart here, but there's lots of different templates for how students can share information. So you can have Wonder discussions, and then they can share out using one of these Canva templates. So that's another way to do discovery learning using Wonderopolis. And then the third and final way is the Wonder Ground, kind of like the Wonder Playground. And this is where you can get so many more ideas like the ones that I've mentioned today, the Wonder Jar, the using Canva, the Wonder discussions, how to actually use this resource in your classroom. And the Wonder Ground is found where the Wonder Jar was, where you just scroll all the way down to the bottom of the home screen. But unfortunately, when we do that, we find that it's down for scheduled maintenance, and it's been down for several weeks. So currently, I can't get in there to show you the Wonder Ground, but I can tell you that if you decide you want to use this for your classroom, that's the place to go if you want even more ideas, even more lesson plans, and if you want to see it correlated to the state standards. I hate that it's not working today, but bookmark that in your mind that the Wonder Ground is a place to go back to for even more ideas. So speaking of that, how does this correlate to the standards? So meeting the standards here, if you're teaching ESL and you're trying to figure out how do I make this align, this is definitely, you can align with both ESL and family standards. With the ESL standard, it's going to be content area 3, which is ESL. It's sub area standard 2, which is speaking. And it is sub area standard F, which says that students can demonstrate appropriate speaking skills and strategies for seeking and relaying information. So this is a standard that would correlate to using Wonderopolis. And then the other standard is the family standard. Family is content area 4. It's sub area 1. C is fostering informal education of children. What's so great about that Wonder Jar is if you implement this in your classroom and you get students used to putting in their wonders, you can model for them how they can take this same concept so easy home to their families, and as their children or as they as a family have little wonders, they can put them in the jar and they themselves can do some learning together as a family, which is exactly what this standard is, fostering informal education of children.
Thank you so much, Katie. And I hope all of you go off and wonder and bring Wonderopolis to the classroom, because I think for ESL students, it's just an amazing tool.
We hope you enjoyed this pre-recorded webinar. After you have passed the final test with a score of 80% or greater and have received your certificate of completion, please take a few moments to complete the course evaluation. Participant feedback helps Train PD at TCAL continue to provide high-quality professional development. To leave a course feedback, please go to the completed portion of your transcript. To do this, hover over the My Learning tab and select View Your Transcript. Click on the drop-down arrow next to the word Active and select Completed. Then, click Evaluate in the drop-down menu next to the course you just completed. Please note that your feedback is greatly appreciated.